We're rolling. We're on the air together.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us. I think I might want this a little. No, it's as tall as it goes. That's it. Did I show you this? Do you know what this is?
I have no idea.
It's Piccola's cage. Leah, this is one of my Christmas gifts from Leah. It's Piccola's cage. Feel it. It was made on a 3D printer. It's Piccola's cage. He's kind of a big deal. Okay, that's not why I wanted to sit down and record with you, though. No, it's Christmas Eve.
It sure is.
It's the day before Christmas Eve. We haven't done this really before.
We have never done this, actually.
No, ever. We've talked to people together before, but not like this.
No.
Not.
Sure.
I don't think into microphones. Do you think?
Not into microphones, no. Mm-mm. Especially not ones that I can't hear myself in.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't pull out the headphones this time. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So, Christmas is coming, and you're a dog trainer.
I am a dog trainer, yes, ma'am.
I was in someone's house this week, and their dog started getting into the Christmas gifts under the tree. And I immediately, I was like, oh. Right, I worry that the dog's not going to be safe.
Well, that's pretty accurate. Who knows what we've got wrapped up under there? Maybe we know. Maybe they're gifts that somebody else gave us and we've put under there. So for sure that can be a dangerous thing. In this example, the dog, it was specifically a gift for the dog. So that just tells us how smart and keen a dog can be, that it could pick out its specific toy under the tree with other wrapped gifts there.
Yeah, and they were all wrapped the same. But the dog knew it was getting a present.
Well, that is true, but it didn't, to know which exact thing was
that's
his.
Crazy.
My thought process goes to the fact that, the odor that whatever the object is an odor that he's familiar with being
the packaging
his.
Even,
correct.
Right? Because the stuff you bring home from the dog store or the toy store smells like the dog store.
Well, correct. Right. But the actual, I can't remember what it was that was in the wrapping paper, but the smell of the object. So I don't think it was a ball, but
some kind of a toy.
Correct. Yeah. And I would be pretty keen to think it was something that wasn't in a package itself.
I wonder, so the dog had been trying to get our attention a lot and engage with us. And I wonder if the dog was like, I'm going to try this.
Well, maybe. I mean, that can for sure be a tactic. If I cause some naughty behavior, then they pay attention to me regardless of good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that we ignore the behavior and just hope that all of a sudden they start understanding what I feel is acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Right. I gotta be able to teach them and show them that piece.
And I would just want to know. I think I would like to expect that my dog could know which present is theirs and or get into the Christmas presents could be a safety risk. I just think it's a good thing to talk about, something to think about. I wouldn't think about this stuff if I weren't married to a dog trainer.
Yeah.
What if it was Bed Bath & Beyond soap or something?
I take things sometimes for granted because I've been doing it so long. It's almost like a parent to an extent who knows what they're trying to make sure a child or children don't get into, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of think ahead of that. And even if it was something that may not have happened, you, for whatever reason, see that potential that somebody who doesn't have a child may not see. And so for me, I personally wouldn't leave the gifts under the tree. They look pretty. It's nice.
They do look pretty.
But the potential itself is not worth the the what could happen and that outcome. And
Sure.
so I want my tree to look pretty, and I want that Christmas spirit. But again, what are the odds? And maybe seem slim to none. But we do things with our
Still.
dogs who are fully trained, and
They still get into trouble.
wow, but there are certain things like if there were presents out, we create our dogs when we leave anyway.
Yeah.
So we're really taking away some of that or a lot of that risk, at least, by being able to regulate what goes on when they're out
Right.
and when I'm here.
Right.
But to think that an animal would never, I've been humbled many times and thinking that.
Yeah.
And
Our Belle, right? Like we used to never think she would get into this or that. And then like one day randomly we came home and she was laying on top of the dining room table, wasn't it? Or the kitchen counter? I don't remember.
no, what had happened was we had actually gone out and grilled
Yes.
and brought the food in, and
Yeah.
Belle had never really been a food motivated sort of a dog, and definitely had never even once given the impression that she wanted anything off
Yeah,
of the
she wasn't a
table.
stealer. She didn't steal food.
No, not at all. Never begged. Of course, she was never given food.
Right.
We were pretty strict about her
We were.
behavior around food and whatever. She was just great and really looked at it as a never happened thing. And I remember we were in the living room eating, and the chicken, the grilled chicken, was on the table. Table was a big 6 foot by
Big
3
table,
foot table, and it was in the corner. And so, two sides are
Exposed,
blocked,
yeah.
and two sides are exposed. But there's still, we had chairs around
Right,
the
we
exposed
did, yeah.
parts. And we started to hear some noise out in the kitchen, and then it kind of stopped, and then we started to hear it again. And I remember we thought maybe it was the cats or instigating things or getting whatever
Right.
our
We're
jerk
eating.
cats
They're
would
just
do.
getting into something.
So we went out, and Belle had actually grabbed, and we had put it. It wasn't sitting on the edge.
Yeah, it was back.
Again, it was back away from the edge, but she had gotten up there and stolen the chicken, and it was one of those, she never would have done it, we thought. And
Yeah.
given that perfect opportunity, she humbled us, and
She got a great reward out of it. Like
she did, and she didn't become, luckily, one who did that.
Yeah.
After that,
We were lucky.
it wasn't something we really had to fight, but that could have been a real pain in the butt kind of an issue to try to navigate, because it is self-rewarding. I got this big plate full of chicken.
fresh grilled chicken.
Right. So now you got to make sure that the opportunity doesn't arise real easily.
Yeah. Fully.
Yeah. So those are some of the things around that. And again, I just, for me, I always err on the side of caution, and have heard and seen too many things. And so, again, that's where, if I can just eliminate. Now, how can we have a nice Christmas tree? Well, there's a few things that you could do. Have some sort of a little exercise pen, and we've owned these before, that you can block
small
off
wire pens, yeah.
around the tree, so they don't have real easy access to get
Right.
to it. Doesn't
It's not
mean
quite
that
so
would keep them
easy.
away from it 100%. But on the other hand, excuse me, it definitely can add that little bit of a cushion that we can
And it gives
hopefully catch
some
them.
communication to the dog, right? Like that you tell the dog
Yeah.
something when you put that up.
Well, yeah,
Right. Meh.
Yeah, some dogs it really may not mean as much as to
Sure.
other dogs.
I could see that.
Well,
this makes me think about parties, birthday parties and family parties around Christmas time, and how dog bites happen with kids around. And that's something that we've talked a lot about over the years, and how dogs and kids can just be a recipe for disaster. There's so much risk there. and that parents often don't think about it in terms that we would wish they would. You know what I mean?
Well, it is a tough thing. I mean, I grew up in a home where, it wasn't a dog training home, and we had, rescues. And when I was young, most of them were labs of some sort or another. And, we did things that I would greatly advise kids and people to not do. And that's
Do you have
just,
any examples?
well, yeah, I'm gonna jump down that rabbit hole with you for a minute. And examples are, examples. Okay, so hugging and kissing in a dog's mind is not the way it is in a human's mind. And whether it's hugging and kissing each other as humans, but in this case, I specifically mean dogs.
Like a kid wrapping their arms around a dog. Kind of thing.
Correct. And getting all up in the dog's face and, walking up and touching their face. And you got to think we're much more on that kind of a eye-to-eye level, but the kids are. But even with adults, dogs will do the same thing. Like we always thought you should reach, right? Let the dog smell.
Yeah.
Well, I always say to clients, your dog could smell me when
From
you
across
open
the
the
room,
door
right.
to get out of the car. Like I don't
They don't
need
need
to
that,
reach.
no.
Correct. And regardless of how I position my hand upon that reach, it still can be mistaken as an assaultive behavior. Why are you doing that?
I've
to
even
me?
seen some humans behave that way. Like if you reach to touch a human and they cut, their body tells you, don't come in my space.
Right. I always let dogs come to me. And in a lot of cases, we go into friends' homes and the dogs are pretty friendly. But when we start dealing with our littles, it can be a much different scenario with dogs. And, I jokingly always say that I don't trust dogs and kids. I half joking, because it's in those moments that we're not paying attention that something bad happens. We had this one Doberman that had to come to us because the owners.
Oh yeah, was this the emergency one, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
owners were away, and it was the owner's adult daughter who, they left the dog with, and there had never been an issue with the dog. The dog was
Ever,
a
yeah.
great dog and nothing wrong. And
He was sweetie.
yeah, and he had a crop tail, a docked tail, and he, of course, Dobies are pretty big dogs.
Yeah, his butt would come up like right up to here.
On a child in this home, the child was about 3 years old, and yes, it was about eye level to where the children's eyes were. And when adults weren't in the room, the child decided to see where that little button went to under the tail, and Bacon was not impressed with that action. And so nobody blamed the dog, but that's that moment when
Kids being a kid.
yeah,
dogs being a
kids are
dog.
impulsive. The dog's like, just gonna stand up for itself. And this was, just something that you couldn't have pictured or imagined, right? Like, how do you go, my 3-year-old's gonna stick their finger in the dog's tuchus? And, but that's one of those things that had we not been
Right.
out of the room in that split second,
It might not have.
correct, it might not have happened. And it's not that anything ever happens on purpose, but generally, and I'm not going to say never, but generally dogs don't just bite for absolutely
Right.
no reason.
It's usually
It
some
can
event or
happen.
trigger.
Yeah, it can be something even real subtle, but most dog bites, there was something that provoked it. And it may be very subtle. In a lot of cases, I have to help a client break it down.
Yeah.
And sometimes I really have to process it myself, because it might be something so subtle. And
It's hard to know when you weren't in the room.
well,
right?
it is,
Yeah.
because what I would tend to see and want to know can be very different from what somebody who who isn't in that situation.
That
And it's just
lens.
as bad as a car wreck, right?
Sure.
Like it's a traumatic
What
thing.
happened? Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of those sorts of cases, were there subtle things that we could have done to
Sure.
hopefully prevent that? And again, with kids and dogs, they just can't kind of read those signals. So although we may let our kids behave in certain ways in our own homes with our own dogs, which I personally would still not suggest things like the kids climbing on top
and
of the
rolling
dog,
and laying
and-
on the dog.
Yeah, I know it's cute, and I know we think it'll never, but I don't know. The little chance is far too great of a risk, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
right?
you can't take it back.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. And so, in that kind of an example, if we're just a step ahead of that,
Yeah.
that
Just being there, being present in the room or supervision.
right, and it
Yeah.
not always mean dogs. I mean,
No.
we were together, and a dog was kissing my face, and I'm one that says I don't want a dog up in my face. Bad things can happen, right? And this is a story that I like to tell, because this dog was a big old 9-month. He was 9 months old, and he was an American bully, and I think he weighed about 90-ish pounds
big,
at the time.
like Thumper, yeah.
And I was laying on the ground outside in the grass, and he came over and started to lick my face. And like I said, I just don't like dogs in my face. Bad things can happen. So I went to get him out of my face, and his tooth got caught up under my nostril, and really did some great damage there, and it had to be stitched back together. And
Yeah,
it
you
took
had
about
a lot of stitches.
Yeah, it took 11 stitches to.
I have old
to get it-
pictures.
yeah,
If we
to
know,
get it
if you
back
live
together.
local, let me know. I'll show you the old pictures.
It was pretty gnarly, and nothing was on purpose.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
He
There was no-
just showing affection.
There
and
wasn't
that was
any
it.
event. There was no conflict. It was just an accident, a
It
pure
was
accident.
It was exactly
Yeah.
why I don't like dogs in my face. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of other reasons, but that was out
Right.
of love, and it wasn't even that a switch got flipped.
Right.
It just was a
Nothing.
complete
Just play.
accident.
So if we think about in terms of dog ownership and being responsible in bite prevention, that particular example would just be, maybe if you looked back and you were going to counsel the person that you watched in the video, you might have said, don't lay down on the ground with the dog.
Well, and that's exactly it, right? Like, again, a lot of the things that I've learned through the years, or some of, have been through mistakes. And, again, that is one of those things. For those of you who don't know, I'm an amputee. I'm amputated above the knee. And so I am a bit more vulnerable when I get it down on the ground with a 90-pound dog, because I can't bounce up as quick. And
escape or getting out of a wrestling match with a
yeah,
dog or something.
right. And
Leverage.
so that was one of those times that I went, well, that's something I'm not going to do again. and again, it was a situation where I would have never in a million years imagined that happen. That's why I was laying on the ground with Tookie at the time, and he was with us for a board and train. And, again, he was just loving me. He was a great
Sweet
dog.
doggo.
Yeah. So I
an
would have said
accident.
there was 100% chance that him and I would have never had a problem like that. And so that's where, again, some of these things are mistakes where I didn't
just
even
happen.
ever have it happen before.
Sure.
And I was very young in my career. The mistake to not make sure that a dog that wasn't mine could not backslip out of its collar.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean by that is where the collar they're wearing can come off over their head. And just because they've never, again, I wouldn't say can't or
We were just talking
wouldn't
about this with
happen
our own dog.
with
Yeah.
Red. Yeah, because I was concerned that his collar could slip over his head if he
Yeah.
really wanted it to, because he doesn't. Our dogs always have a collar on.
But if he saw a kitty or a bunny,
Yeah, I don't think, like, my thought would be, because he those small kind of creatures are really tempting to him. I would think he would go forward and try to get to the end of the leash and run at him, right? But that would be our mistake, right? All of a sudden, he would hit the end of the leash, and somehow, whatever happens,
take
he
2
gets out of
seconds,
that collar,
leash comes off
yeah,
or
and
whatever.
gone,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where, it was that mistake, and luckily the dog didn't really go far, and we got the dog back, and it was all good.
We
But
changed our processes after that.
well, yeah, I mean, this was early on in my career. This was, back when I was in Southern Maine. This was early in my career. So, when people come to see me, one of the instructions they get is, I want the dog to have a collar on that it can't backslip out of. And that's why, because personally, I don't want to see anything horrible happen. And I go back to just because it hasn't ever doesn't necessarily mean it can't.
For sure.
And I'm just not willing to take those kind of risks with safety of the dogs or the people that I work with.
Yeah. Murphy's Law says whatever can happen will happen. So let's try. If you feel like sitting back, you can just pick this up and hold it, so that if you just want to lean back in the chair. So sticking on for just a couple more minutes about family gatherings. So imagine you are in a young family and you're the dad, and you and your little family are going to your sister-in-law's house, and they have dogs and you have little kids. How are you going to coach the little kids to behave over with the dogs?
Some of the easy things: don't get in the dog's face. Okay, if you're gonna pet and touch the dog, I would pet the body. I stay away from the head and the face. Like, if I were a dog, why would I want you reaching for my face? So I'm far more apt to pet the body. I'm not going to go out of my way to run around the house waving my arms, squealing, jumping up and down.
Sounding like a chew toy?
Right, because who knows how old this dog may be, but you might be mistaken for a big toy. And so that kind of stuff can provoke some dogs. So if it's an excitable dog, now he's jumping on you, and you wound him up. So that's something I would, coach the kids not to do. You're not going to steal the dog's toys. You're not going to get in the dog's...
Or touch them at all. Don't touch the dog's toys.
Leave the dog's toys alone, unless it was a dog that maybe came and spit a ball in your lap. But I'm not going to try to steal things, even if I'm going to take it out of your mouth and throw it. I'm still not going to be in a hurry to try to steal that out of the dog's mouth. I'm not going to go near their food bowl, whether it's empty or not. I'm not going to go near, even their water. Like, my kids just don't need to be playing in the dog's water. But those are things that a dog may mistake what you're doing around these resources.
Some territory kind of stuff.
Right.
There, right?
Even if they're empty. Right. And don't go climb in the dog's bed. If it's a dog that has a crate, you don't need to go get in the dog's crate.
Yeah.
Those are things where it's the dog's spot, and you just don't need to be up in their things.
But
like
I really want to talk to can I pet the dog? I really want to see the dog. Can I see the dog?
We had we have a friend, and he brought his at the time the kid was 2-ish maybe, and they came over every Sunday for dinner with us, and the baby didn't really interact with, or the 2-year-old, whatever, didn't really interact a ton with our German Shepherd. And Belle was pretty rock solid in the way that she was proofed and trained, and she was just a great dog. And she had a basket of toys, and she had her bed No, it was pretty close to the toys. And Kyron would go and she was laying on her bed at the time. And he'd go pick up a toy and go lay it next to her. And then he'd go back and eventually bring another toy back and lay it next to her. And it really, made me nervous because, again, just because
it's never happened.
What if it's that split second that I can never take back? Tookie catching my nose while he's kissing me,
or she could have just turned quickly. A paw could have gone.
Right.
And a toenail.
So, in those kind of cases, even though I'm not going to lie, I did let that go on. And then, Kyron ended up laying next to Belle on her bed. And, Belle didn't care. But again, it still made me a little bit concerned and just nervous because that's her stuff, her space. And I would greatly advise anybody that stuff to, make sure your kids don't do. And, especially.
Don't feed the dogs. No food around the dogs.
Right.
Candy treats, all that. Yeah.
No, we don't ever give dogs, human food and table scraps and stuff like that. So
changing gears just a little bit, how would you coach the sister-in-law whose family is coming and has the dog or dogs? Maybe they have 2 dogs, say, like we do.
Well, it is hard when I go into a situation that isn't my dog's, right? So,
if we have people over, we create the dogs.
Yeah, we put our dogs away, and that's how things start off. I can't really tell somebody how to have their dog at their house unless it's something where you're truly afraid of the dog, and hopefully they would respect the fact that you wouldn't want the dog to be out and loose and free. But for us, and this is what I advise a lot of people to do, because dogs will get excited that somebody's showing up and there's all this excitement at the door, and when people first come in and hi and hugging and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I prefer to start off, our dogs are crate trained, they start off in the crate so that way people can come in, put their stuff down, say hi, and I'll wait until all of our guests have shown up. And in our case, generally it's a large kind of potluck group sort of a deal.
Yeah, like 20 people.
Yeah, and some might be little kids and families. And again, what's acceptable in somebody else's home with their dog isn't always aligned with what I want. So anyway, my guests would show up. I would go to get my dogs. When I bring my dogs out, because they're super social and I want to make sure that they're successful, in a couple ways that I can do that is by putting them on leash. Now, that makes it successful in a couple of ways. One is because I can keep the dog from getting too excited and just running and jumping on somebody or bowling them over. However, that excitement may initially come out. I can also prevent somebody from winding up my dog and behaving in a way that I don't want my dog to behave with people and interact. So, I don't mind if your dog jumps on me. Yes, but I do. That's not something that I want. Oh, it's okay. And I can regulate that if I have my dog on leash.
Right, because you can't change that person's behavior, right? So maybe Uncle Joe comes and he's like, here, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on, buddy.
Right.
Get up here, buddy.
And
you're saying, listen, I don't want my dog jumping. I know, but I don't mind. I love it. Come here, buddy.
Well, if it was your kid, you would only tell somebody once, if that many times. Right? You wouldn't ask somebody twice to not behave or do something around your child, right? And so why does it make it different that we can do that to somebody else's animal? Again, dogs aren't our fur babies, right? But they're my animal that I live with, that I'm spending the time and the effort, and in some cases, lots of money to train and to stop these
I'm not going to let you come
behavior.
over and teach my kid to slap people or give him a bunch of junk food.
No,
I won't invite you back.
Right, that's not okay. Forcing my kid up in your lap if they don't want to, like whatever. Yeah, like whatever it might be. So again, with my dog, I can set those same boundaries, and this is the behavior that's going to go on, and this is how I can regulate that, right? And if my dogs are, under control and they're on leash, or if they're under voice control, I can prevent the dog from, getting table scraps if I don't
Right.
want my dogs, which I would highly advise anyway. But again, you get into that, oh, I don't live here. I'm not around
Right.
your
It's
dog
not
all the
my dog,
time.
yeah.
Like that kind of stuff
It's a
really
special
happens.
occasion.
Yeah, it really, that stuff goes on far more than it should, and so we can step in and regulate that sort of a thing. And then maybe my dogs, I let them stay out, but again, I regulate. It's just like if I had kids
Yeah.
out and about somewhere, I make sure that my dogs aren't doing things that I wouldn't approve of.
And we try to train them what the expectations are for their behavior, and like if they behave outside of those expectations that they've already been given the education for, there's a consequence, and they're
Right.
just removed from the situation, so it can't happen.
Right. And I do, it's the other way around. Like you asked, how can I get Aunt Sue to do X, Y, and Z for me to come over with their dog? There's nothing I can do. Okay, but I can tell you what I expect your behavior to be like when you come into my house with my dog, or anywhere with my dog. But you get the point. Like, okay, these are my rules and expectations. Dog's not allowed to jump on you. Dog's not allowed to have any table scraps. Dog's not allowed X, Y, and Z, and you give them those parameters of what you feel is acceptable behavior from them towards the dog.
Yeah.
and that is a really important thing. And the reason my dogs might end up tucked away is because I don't want to have to regulate that.
We just want to relax.
Yeah, if
We
my
wanna enjoy
dogs
our
are out,
friends.
it's game time for me. Like, making sure that they really are behaving appropriately. And again, we don't have kids. My dogs are very social, but okay, I don't want them to just run around and do things with the kids.
Because you're engaged and responsible for that. When people are around, it's hard to relax because you're busy being a parent to the dogs or whatever, dog ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really useful discussion. I think that these are questions that people have, or they have these questions later after a problem happens, right? Then the questions come, what could I have done to prevent that? Was this my fault? Those kinds of questions. So when I think about what people would want to ask you, like if they had a chance to sit down with you like I do, and they would want to ask you questions, I think those are some of the questions people would ask. But I have more. Are you up for a few more?
Sure.
So one of the things that we talk to people about a lot is getting ready with as a new dog owner coming to see you for the first time. They usually want to talk on the phone before your appointment.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
No, I don't. Phone calls. So here's what I've come to learn through time. I've been in the dog world for over 25 years at this point. So I have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of experience with not only the animals, but the human side of things. And I tell people all the time, dog training is 90% human, 10% dog.
Yeah.
And if you were to call me, the things that we're going to talk about on the phone are going to be the same exact things I need you to talk to me about face to face.
Yep.
And the problem's all the same. Nobody has unique problems per se.
Because this is what it is. People want to explain to you what's been going on, what's the problem. Yeah, but I just want to tell you about this. I just need to explain. I just need to tell you about this.
Right. And the other part that's complicated is I can't give great advice or free advice necessarily over the phone, but I can't give great advice in a lot of cases without eyes on the animal.
Yes.
I need the animal in front of me. I need to see. I need to
To
watch.
see you with the dog too.
Right. And I need to see the way that the dog behaves. Well, people will say, yeah, but the dog only does X, Y, or Z at my house.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. I know what that looks like. I don't need to come to your house to watch the dog misbehave. Like, I know what that
Right.
looks
But
like.
every time the mailman comes,
I don't need to even see the dog
Right.
misbehave to show you how to correct the problem,
and we
because
don't have
I've
to talk
seen it a
on
ton.
the phone, right?
No,
about it.
no, I can fix every problem. So you don't have to necessarily call and ask me if it's something I work with, because the answer is yes.
Is it a dog? Then yes.
Correct. The other thing that came up recently to an acquaintance of mine was they had gone into somewhere and were involved in a conversation about dogs with somebody. And my name business came up, and the person has a younger dog, I guess, and their response was, well, I've heard of so and so, but he only deals with real bad problem dogs. And that's
Right,
not the
like
case,
extreme
right?
problems.
And that's not the case, although I do see a lot of really
I call 'em
tough
last chance
cases.
dogs.
Well, it really is in a lot of cases the last house on the last street. And in that sort of a case,
Lost train of thought.
I did.
That's okay. We were just talking about how there was like a rumor on a comment or a post.
So here was the deal. Just because your dog doesn't have problems does not mean that you can't come see me. As a matter of fact, before the problem is the best time to come see me. When
prevention is always better.
When the puppy is young, when it's 10 weeks or older, if we can get on top of things and really start to teach things, then it's not the extreme problems that I come across. And so we start with puppies as young as 10 weeks, and a lot of things can go on. We're not looking that we're going to make a perfect dog at that time in its life. But on the other hand, we start to lay a foundation. We also can build some confidence in the dog, and a clear line of communication between owner and dog, and set the whole thing up for success, instead of it being this this horrible thing down the road,
and where we're saying, I wish in the beginning we had been blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's nice. I think if you're thinking about getting a puppy and you come across this discussion, like, keep that in mind. Getting that training going early is really beneficial in so many ways. Opening that channel of communication between the owner and the dog, setting expectations, and you need all of that consistency, right? You've told me that it's like how many 600 to 6,000 times they need to.
Yeah.
So a dog needs to hear something 600 to 6,000 times before
it has to be successful at it. Just because you say sit 6,000 times before the dog finally sits does not count.
So if we've had 600 or so successful sits where I say sit or give a motion or, communicate that I want this to happen, and it does happen, and then a treat is given or whatever the reward is. We've done that 600 times. Hopefully we've got it in, but it could take up to 6,000 times to really get that into the dog.
You're just looking to create muscle memory. That's why it takes that amount of time. David Ortiz went into the batter's box every single day before game time. Who knows how many hours he would spend in there, right? And whether it's pitching machines or whatever the case may be, one of the greatest, right? Hall of Famer, and still out there every day. And the reason he would do that is because he's creating muscle memory. So that way, when it's really game time,
you don't even have to think about it.
He's out there, correct. The body just reacts in this manner, muscle memory. And so that is the exact same thing that we're building within the dog. And that's why it takes that many reps. Now, it sounds like a whole crap ton, but if you have your dog sit every time it goes out the door and every time it comes back in from outside, how many times in one day alone can you work on the sit command? A dozen or more anyway, right? So it really does add up very quick. And that's where the consistency comes in. And
that's what I coach people to. Like, results only have you can only achieve excellence with consistency. That's the main ingredient there, right? Like, you can do teach them new things all day long. But if you're not consistent in it, in your approach and your communication with the dog, how you show up, when you show up, you're not going to get the kind of results that you're hoping for.
Right. And a lot of times people will come back after, I've seen them and it's been a week or two and we're to that next appointment, and they'll say, well, I haven't had the time. And in a lot of cases, when I have this conversation, they're thinking, I haven't set aside X amount of minutes or hour
right, this
each
hour
day.
or this half an hour of dedicated training time.
And that's where it's that consistency throughout every aspect of your life that builds up. I mean, and when I start giving those boxes for them to check, oh yeah, I did make my dog sit before it went out. Yeah, I did make my dog. Oh yes, every day. Here we go.
Good.
That's 100%. And so then people go, oh well, wait a minute. Then I guess every single day, right?
Because instead of thinking of this like classroom time that's set aside,
I didn't achieve what I was supposed to, and that's a lot of times not the case.
Yeah, right on. That's good. So that's good. I also wrote down, about rehoming because I thought at the very least I wanted to mention it. This time of year, people sometimes get new puppies because of the holidays, at Christmas or at the New Year or whatever. This time of year, a lot of times people get new animals, and then they find out after, 3 weeks that they're just kidding. I didn't want an animal. And we get a lot of phone calls and text messages about rehoming. People think that we have some magic way to help connect and rehome dogs, and we don't.
No, it's just not something that I'm involved with. And even when I've done things with rescue organizations, in terms of helping them get a dog suitable to go into a home, I play no part in them actually placing that dog,
choosing someone.
Yeah, there's a whole slew of reasons that I don't do it, but just the bottom line, it's just not something that I do. And
how do we direct people? Vet, right? Like start with the vet.
Well, no, I mean what they need to do is really try training and working with the dog. I mean,
I guess I was thinking of like if it was somebody, I was thinking if they're at the end of their rope, talking to their vet would get them started on, what do we need to assess to move forward. Well, training, if they haven't ever tried any training.
But we're now passing this on to the vet. Here's the thing. Like when you go to get rid of a dog because you don't want it anymore and you're not willing to put the time, effort, money, and patience into this creature that you were willing to, say you were going to bring into your life for the next 10 or 12 years, right? Well, when you then pass up a dog, your options are going to start being, okay, I'm going to take it to the shelter, the Humane Society, right? Well, then we have no idea what goes on from that point. Sure. So,
it's a surrender.
Yeah. And sometimes they're great success stories and sometimes they're not. A rescue organization, it's the same sort of a thing. Yep. So, what kind of life is the dog about to then go into? You've also got do I try to sell them on Facebook or place them through Facebook Marketplace? Again,
it's just a crapshoot.
It really is. So the biggest thing that I can say is because vets aren't going to really have answers either.
I was thinking of the vet as the person who they refer you where you're going instead of us, right? It seems like they come to you first instead of asking someone else questions. Your vet's
not going to do anything for you.
They might refer you to a trainer like Titanium Canine.
Well, I mean, if you're watching this already, then, like I said, you should see the trainer first. You go to your vet and they're probably going to refer you to me.
Yeah.
And so that's the...
Which is where the reputation came from, right?
But the bottom line is it really, that kind of a thing, your vet's just not going to have any answers for, really.
Right.
Again, think it through. really
before you get the animal. Think about
like
it.
this is a
It's a big
commitment. It
Like we're talking
really
about like all
is.
day, every day, being present,
Puppies,
being mindful of
yeah,
the dog.
puppies are a lot of work,
It's a member of the household, right?
it definitely is work. It definitely, even if you're not going to do any dog training, it's still a lot of time, effort, and
Yeah. And
energy.
I would say, even if you're really thinking you're still going to end up rehoming this dog, that training is still going to be useful to you in that process, because then the dog can be more adoptable, right?
That
More likely to get
for
into a good
somebody to
home.
want to take it, but when
Right.
we're just trying to pass off a problem to somebody else, that's not
Maybe
great.
reconsider getting an animal. Think about why you want the animal, and if it's affection that you're looking for, maybe there's another way. Or you can come and visit our dogs. They'll be affectionate with you.
Yeah.
But we'll have leashes on them.
Yeah.
We'll train you how to come and be with our dogs.
Right, how to behave appropriately.
What do you think are some of the most common questions that clients have or people have about dogs in general? I think doorbell time is one of the most common things that comes up. And how do I get my dog to come when I call?
Everything that you teach a dog has to start with small successes, and then your expectations can grow from there. So let's say my recall. Well, right out of the gate, to have your dog outside off leash, the likelihood recall is going to be successful isn't great. And so that's where
Maybe that's not how we start that.
right. Right. And so it's successes over and over and over. And so in that kind of an example, you're going to have to take and set things up in a way that your dog thinks payoff coming to you is greater than anything else in the entire world.
Oh, that's hard when you're outside. There's so many fun, exciting things outside.
Right.
Smells and sounds.
Right. And so that's where we even start. Can I recall my dog a few steps on leash?
Inside.
Well, right.
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 Well, you really set yourself up for not just success, but also safety management, right? Like, what if you're doing recall outside and the dog runs into the road and you're like, well, I'm just training my dog.
Your dog should not be off leash under any circumstance until 100%
rock solid.
The dog's recall is rock solid from anything else in the entire world.
Right. That your recall is the most, takes the priority over whatever
that
else
your
is
dog
happening.
could be in a dead sprint after whatever, and when
seen
you
that on
go
the
to
internets,
you go to call it, it stops dead in its tracks and comes back to you.
It's fun to watch those sporting dog videos.
That's
like that.
when you need a solid recall like that, and until you have that, dog can't be off leash.
Period.
Correct.
It's not safe.
Nope. No, not at all.
Yep.
And so it really is chalking up small successful things over and over and over. And then as the dog gets better at something, my expectations become bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So now I go from a dog on a 6-foot leash and some recalls to 10-foot.
Sure.
20 foot.
Right.
And until I, again, like I said, no, it does not matter what else goes on in the entire world. Dog's going to come right back to me.
And that's a part of what happens when people come and learn from you is you teach them the mechanics of how to build those small successes, how to even think about approaching the problem, and those step-by-step, the mechanics, the tools, the language around it. That's what you work on with the human.
Right.
With the dog together most of the time. Sometimes there's no dog, right?
There have been times that,
Tell me why you would want to meet with a human without their dog.
There have been some times where dog comes in and they'll just bark and bark and bark to no end, where we wouldn't be able to communicate at all to start, and trying to yell over a dog to a handler and get message across. Sometimes that's a little too much. And as we even escalate to try to yell over the dog or whatever
Run
the
the
case may
dog.
be. That just winds the situation up even more. So it's not often, but there have been some times where that's how it's started.
For sure. And I can remember there was a time when you did group classes back pre-COVID that on the first night would do like a safety discussion with no dogs present
Correct.
so that you can have their attention, and because they're learning what those safety regulations are for you and your policy.
Yeah, right. And also, how when you start putting a whole bunch of dogs together, people can kind of miss things, especially that first week.
And they're dogs who are probably new at this, right? And they've been having some struggles, right, with their behavior, or they wouldn't have been looking for a class or whatever.
Right.
So you get like 10 plus of those kinds of dogs together, and probably the owners are pretty inexperienced. 7 out of 10 of them are, right? Pretty inexperienced. Yeah. And so that safety discussion can be so important, and having it without dogs in the room will have a much bigger, deeper impact on the humans.
Right.
For sure. And then you do a better job as a human. I know I have. Like, I've really benefited from that because I don't know how to behave when I show up at dog training class, right? When I would come and help you, I didn't know how to behave in the room. So, like, you would teach me outside of the room how to behave inside the room.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you thinking? I still don't know how to behave. You're not going to say. I've made some big mistakes in dog training classrooms. Mistakes, I say, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Thinking about Lloyd's old classes, or like when Jess Klein was around, and shout out to Jess Klein, photographer extraordinaire. She's a fine art photographer, but specializes with animals. She's magical. But anyways, right, she was around the area, and you guys have been doing some work together. And I remember taking Belly Button to classes, and she was such a jerk for Belle, not Jess. Jess is a doll. But Belle was being such a jerk, and she just wanted to be with you.
Yeah.
Like, Belle was so bonded to you, and she would just sit or stand there and just stare at you and cry and cry and cry. And then if you gave any other dog your attention, she was worse. Yep. She would like Kai-eye and just cry. Well, and you would tell me, do this, do that, but she wouldn't pay any attention to me at all. Yeah. And then I would see her with Jess, and they would do quite well together. So then I would try to copy what Jess did. And then I would try to do it here. So I would try to behave like I was supposed to behave here to get better at it. And so that Belle, because I thought Belle doesn't expect me to know what I'm doing. Right. Belle knows that I don't know what I'm doing, and she can get away with this nonsense. So I thought if I practice that at home too, that the next time I go to class, I'll be able to be better and will have better result.
Yeah.
So that worked for me mostly, right? I got better at it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm much safer in a room full of dogs now than I used to be.
Wow.
I mean, little things though that I used to take for granted, like if you're going from the kitchen to the living room and you're carrying a plate of food and you step over your dog and the dog gets up when you're stepping over them, things like that. Like, your dogs didn't get up when you stepped over them. Mm-mm. And those were some of the things that I first noticed when we first started spending time together. Things like that. And like your crutches and stuff like that, how important it is for the dogs to be comfortable around those tools.
Right. Yeah.
Remember when Jackson, we had this dog with us for a little bit. Rest in peace, Jackson. And when you took your prosthetic leg off,
he would lose his mind.
He lost his mind.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the Matrix. Like, this is a glitch in the Matrix. Like, he would lose his mind. He'd bark at it and stare at it. Yeah. Like, if you put the leg off to the side, he would just be like,
left was right.
Yes,
up was
down is up. Yeah. Everything is wrong. He was just beside himself.
Yeah.
My gosh. And so there is a lot of value in your experience in that too, for people who live in houses with wheelchairs and crutches and things like that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I have to live it, and I've had to work around that component for 20 whatever years.
Forever years, yeah.
So, yes, I always say to people, if the one-legged guy can handle your dog, I'm pretty
sure you
sure
can.
I can help you achieve the same.
I love it. Can you think of any other questions that came up while we were sitting here? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, ma'am. I think that covers things pretty well for today.
Feels like a wrap. That's what that sounded like to me. That feels like a
Mhm.
wrap.
Yeah.
Good. Next time, I want to ask you about dogs and cars.
Sure.
We could probably talk about that for a whole hour.
Probably.
Thank you for doing this with me.
You're welcome.
If I ask people to give me questions, do you think that's a good idea? Like if we
I do. Yep,
so
for sure.
send us your questions and we will evaluate them and see if we're willing to answer them in this format. Thank you, babe.
Thank you.